I think the bottom line, the reality is that the only thing that 100% takes that kind of bitter taste out of your mouth is to get back and win it all, and that's exactly where our heads are. We've said from day one that we weren't in this thing to, just get there once or, be a flash in the pan. That we wanted this to sustain over time, and that's more true than ever. I feel like we are just going to sit back and recommit ourselves to our fans and to winning. Our fans have been absolutely outstanding. Set a attendance mark this year. Every city we went to in the postseason, they were as loud or arguably louder than the home team, and it meant an enormous amount to our players, and certainly meant a lot to us and our families as we traveled throughout. So they deserve every bit of our effort level, and they're going to get it. And today starts 2012 as far as we're concerned. We're ready to go to work. First of all, we've got a really strong nucleus, a really good core. We've got more good players on the way, and most of the players that are on this club are going to be back and are in their primes. So, from that standpoint, as far as having a running start on the off season, we couldn't be happier about where we're at. Pitching is going to be priority one, always will be. I think that's the mindset that has changed, and a large reason why we've had some success to this point. No doubt we've got a decision to make and a discussion to have with CJ. As the most notable of our potential free agents, or not potential anymore, now free agents. And we've got a lot of good arms, both at the big league level and close to it, that we've got to sort through before we start looking externally. Kind of said before, I wish we had two of them, and with Ogando, maybe we actually do. I thought it was a successful transition for Alexi this year. It was a successful transition for CJ. You want to have a upper rotation starter, and you want to have guys that can lock down the back end. I think as you look at the free agent market and you look at trade market, it's usually easier to fill the back end than the front of the rotation. The unknown is, can he start? I think that the big difference between this year and last year will be we're going to make that decision before we get to spring training. I can't give you an answer sitting here today as far as exactly what we're going to do. I think there's some other dominoes that are involved with that. But I think the general feeling is that he's capable of it. We know he's capable of being a lockdown guy at the back of the bullpen. Just a matter of how exactly we want to put things together, but that's certainly an intriguing option we've got. As far as any sort of significant investment, whether it's offense or pitching, especially when we're talking about financial investment, our mindset is going to be to look internal first. 2 years ago we had a very young club that was probably overachieved where they were contractually because of the nature of baseball's economic system. The last 2 years as they've been entering arbitration, that starts to even out. And the reality is that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, we've got a lot of our players that, as CJ being the first, our core guys that have a chance to reach free agency. So that's going to be one of our big priorities this offseason. It might not happen right at the beginning of the offseason. It might happen a little later. But as far as for our planning purposes, we want to make sure we're able to retain the core, the guys that are responsible for getting us here, the guys that our fans associate with. And so any free agent or big spending acquisition outside is going to have to be looked at through that prism, what impact that will have on keeping our group together. And we're not going to do anything that is going to jeopardize keeping the players that we want to keep here. I can say this, ownership is really committed to keeping the core together and to keeping a winning product on the field. Now, that's not only a factor of Major League payroll, but also what we do scouting and development-wise and building the infrastructure and keeping that strong. But I do expect payroll will go up from where it was this year. I think we talked about depth and versatility a lot last offseason, and it played out that way. I mean, we probably don't have a Cy Young candidate on our team this year. We probably don't have an MVP candidate on our team this year, and yet we were, right there. So I think that's going to be our mindset, to build, again, as deep and versatile club. Hey, would we love to have 3 number ones? And of course, everybody would. But our mindset's going to be as deep and versatile club, as talented a club as possible. And we're going to look to our own guys first. At the same time, you don't want it to get stale. So I think we're going to do a true evaluation of where we're at and what we can expect from everybody, and then go out and see what's out there and how we can get ourselves better. All off season long, all spring training long, all we were asked about was the World Series hangover from the year before, and obviously that was a non-factor. And we get dominated in Game 1 by Matt Moore in Tampa Bay, non-factor. Last year we had Game 1 against the Yankees, have that tough game against in the bullpen in Game 1 and lose that at home, non-factor. Obviously this is a different level. I'm not going to minimize it, and I think there's it might take a little bit longer for everybody to kind of shake it off, but tremendous heart in that clubhouse. We got a very motivated group right now in the clubhouse, on the field, but in the front office. We want to get the job done. I hate spring training decisions. I do. We go back and study it. My guess is you make as many bad ones as good ones. Sometimes you get bailed out and Nelson Cruz clears waivers. But you're making decisions in exhibition games. Guys facing A-ball hitters. Everyone's everyone's in the fishbowl making the call with everyone getting asked the same questions every day. I just don't think it's the best way to make decisions. I think you need to take a step back. And what's the best thing for the organization, big picture? Plus, for a young player, I think it's fair to him. Let him know this is how we want you to prepare, get your mind right, and get ready for the season. I think our preference would be to have Josh in left field. Hey, you can get hurt anywhere. Our feeling is that the wear and tear is probably a little greater in center field than left, just from the amount of running, the amount of ground that's there to cover. I'm not ruling out that he could, Josh could be the primary center fielder. That's a possibility. I look at it as you got Craig, Julio, Leonis, and David Murphy coming into camp. Some combination of those four guys with Josh and Nelly out there. It's a good problem to have. But in a vacuum, and this is not taking anything away from David Murphy, our preference would be to have Josh in left field. Got to do everything we can to develop our own. I'm talking about at the A-ball and AA level, getting those guys going. Every physical resource we have to accelerating their development. And then when you look at Alexi, Matt, and Derek, how can we get them to the next level? Because it's hard to come by, and you can't win without it. Mitch was dealing, kind of kept it under wraps for the most part. Mitch was dealing with some right wrist soreness for basically the whole second half. More or less tendonitis, I think is the best way to put it. He'll get reevaluated here this week. I think it's this week. He was seen by a couple people. No one felt that anything but extended rest would help him. Unfortunately, during the season, that's the one thing you can't have. And so, I think looking at it along those lines, we still have a pretty good degree of confidence in Mitch. There's some things he needs to get better at, and I think as a young player we can expect that. But I don't think the second half is a fair indication of what he's capable of.